completely anonymously by sending it directly to Dr. Jamila or to me, and we'll read out the question without taking your name. So now the time is open for anyone to ask your question. And for those who are online also, you could use the YouTube chat and I'll try to read your questions from there. Thank you very much. Yeah, any questions? Yeah, okay. Raina, please go ahead. Would you unmute yourself?
Thanks, Dr. Jamila, for that very comprehensive presentation. Much appreciated. Something that strikes me is the response of common citizens to violence in this whole situation. We are all praying for blood. The kind of messages that are going around are, they did this, they need to be hanged, they need to be burnt.
Yes.
And for me, that is the cause of concern, because two things. One is we need to, before we get trigger happy and forward the messages, it's, as Christians, I think we need to look at the message with the mind of Christ, and and before we pass it on. And even in this entire thing, I was glad that one of your points was that we need to start working with victims and the perpetrators. So how do we work with this mindset that I was thinking in one of the groups that I was saying, whose side would be on when Pilate was asking, whom do you want, Jesus or Barabbas? Would be on the crowd side, which would say, no, go in for Jesus. That kind of a thing. So is a cause of concern.
Right. Thank you very much, Jaina. Yeah. I get your question, and I agree with you that there has been all this kind of response. And so I want to say the same thing, that look, this kind of stirred everybody up and it has aroused people. And we have a very hysterical response almost to it, which is actually completely inappropriate, because it's not as if this is new. There are rapes happening every day. And that's why I just brought out the statistics that there is a rape happening every 20 minutes. Okay. Are you going to kill all those guys and all those, what are you going to do? I mean, this is a kind of ridiculous sort of thing. And again, the whole insistence on a violent response, that itself is patriarchal. It's the whole patriarchal thing of, one set of men are raping and the other set of men are protecting. So the women are like caught in the middle. So if you rape my woman, I will kill you, sort of thing. So there's a whole lot of violence here. And as Christians, we do not want any of this violence. We need to speak very clearly and say that, look, we don't like what has happened, but we are not going to bay for this person's blood or anything like that. What sense does that make? It's just a hysterical, knee-jerk reaction. It has elements of patriarchy and violence in it. And as Christians, we need to bring a sense of balance. We need to realize that the perpetrator is equally, of course, he's to blame. And of course, there's no excuse for anything that he did. But we do not want just to kill him. Okay? We want him to stand trial and get whatever just punishment is awarded to him. But we also want him to turn from this, no? And we want to set an example of peace and non-violence. We want to set an example that we do not want to kill all the people who are raping. That's what sort of a response is that, no? As Christians, we cannot respond like that, and we need to bring that balance. So thank you for bringing that out. That is very true, that this is the this is the response often, right? Thank you. Any other comments, questions?
I think that
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
Ma'am, first of all, thank you for such a great session. It was very insightful. My question is in continuation with the discussion that we are just having. So, as Christians, what is the role of forgiveness in this entire scenario? Because on one hand, when we see such cases, it kind of boils our blood, to the core. But on the other hand, when we talk about the Christian values, it talks about forgiveness and loving and praying for our enemies and our persecutors. So we are caught between the two extremes. On one hand, to punish them, to give justice to the victim, and
Okay.
on the other hand, forgiveness. How do we dwell between the two?
All right. Yes. Thank you for that question, Erika. My answer is this, that if a crime has been committed, there should be if a crime has been committed, there should be a system of yes, Natty, you switch off your could you mute yourself,
Yeah,
please? Yeah.
yeah, I'll
Okay.
check that. I'm
I
sorry.
was saying that if a crime has been committed, there has to be a system which ensures justice for a crime which is committed. So a crime such as rape and murder is a very serious crime, particularly the murder part of it's they've killed this girl, and obviously there has to be a legal system for correcting and bringing justice for the girl. So that there's no question of forgiving him in that sense. Okay. But if the girl was alive, or forget her, I mean, she's not here to forgive or whatever. All of us who have faced some kind of sexual abuse in our lives, forgiveness is something which we will have to grapple with. And yes, the goal is at some point to forgive the abuser, forgive the rapist, whatever it is, because we do not have the right to hold that against him. Ultimately, it is God who has to deal with him. Okay, ultimately,
Dr.
we
Jamila,
will have to
there
grapple.
is a break. There's a break in your audio, I think. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Uh,
Can you hear me now?
there's a bit of. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Much clearer. Yeah. Go ahead, please.
Clearer? Okay.
Yes, yes.
So I
Much
was
clearer. Yeah.
saying
Go
that
ahead, please.
much clearer. Okay. So I was saying that forgiveness is something which each person who has been abused or raped or whatever will have to grapple with. However, it is not for anybody else to push that forgiveness on the girl. Okay, a girl or man or whoever it is who has undergone this abuse. It takes time, it takes a long while of understanding, and it takes a lot of healing before you can forgive. So we should not ever push it on them and say that you have to forgive. Okay, we can lead them there very gently, talk about it, but first process what happened and understand. First of all, what they have to understand is that I am not to blame. All right, because a girl who has been raped, everybody will point their fingers at her and say, why were you there? What were you doing? What were you wearing? Were you drunk? Did you not know he was like this? Why didn't you go home? All these questions. There will be a lot of blame for the girl. And if perchance she has not fought back as much as she could have, then the question will be, why didn't you run away? Why didn't you fight? Okay. So many questions, so much of blame. So first thing that she has to understand is that she was not to blame, and the blame is completely that of the person who has taken the liberty to force himself on her. It is not her fault at all. Okay, no matter where she was, what she was doing, he did not have the right to touch her. Once she gets this very clear in her mind, then she's able to see that person as the person who is rather pathetic. No, that person is the one who is a very poor sample of a human being who is mature and kind. And what what does a rapist have to say for himself? No, what what uh, what is there admirable in him? At that point, nothing. No, at that point, he is not. There's nothing admirable about him. So that person is the one who needs to be pitied, and who is the one who needs help actually. So once she's able to see this, it's easier to forgive. So then you move from being a victim and somebody who's blamed to then being, a survivor, and then being an advocate and a forgiver and all that. So it's a process. We need to help the girls with that process. Okay, there's a question here. As a Christian, we have no right to take someone's life in our own hand. Can you read the whole? There are lots of questions here. Sorry. I find it difficult to understand that violence is patriarchal. There were more women who were protesting and demanding death penalty for the perpetrators. I think we need to understand the natural reaction, which is temporary. In the long run, people do know what is right and what is wrong. Let us know that people are human first. Okay, you are free to your opinion there. All I said was it is a patriarchal response that the person who does this wrong has to be corrected. So violence as an answer is part of patriarchy. And because we are talking about a patriarchal system, that's why I brought it up. If you choose to think that it's just a natural reaction, well, that's up to you. Yes, women can also be patriarchal because we are part of this patriarchal system, by the way. Okay. No one is saying that only men are patriarchal. Women can be some of the greatest exponents of patriarchy. Okay. How do we respond as a Christian when someone asks, does the victim get to go to heaven? Because apparently she didn't believe in Jesus Christ. She wasn't responsible for her violent death. How will God grant justice to her on the judgment day? Although I don't know how God will answer. Well, okay, that's a question on a different aspect. I can't answer that question. Only God can answer that question, how he will judge her. Okay. I'm sure he will judge her justly. So we can leave that judgment safely in God's hands, I think. Okay. That he understands and knows her and her issues and her beliefs and everything in a much better way than we can. So this is pure speculation on our part. So no point in doing that. Okay, as a Christian, we have no right to take someone's life in our own hand. So what if girl was raped and killed by rapist? What should be best punishment for the rapist? What should be the best punishment for the rapist? Well, as of now, I think it is the sentence has moved from 7 years to life imprisonment in some cases. Okay, so that is what the justice system would do. I would personally feel that some kind of restitutive, rehabilitative behavior would also be good. So I would think that it would be nice if the man could be given some kind of training in helping to understand women, maybe do some service for women, something like that. That would also help him to understand that these are equal human beings and I have violated a human being. Okay, so again, that is just can you
Hello,
share some?
yeah.
Dr.
Hello,
Jamila,
Jamila, I have a question.
just a second. No,
Just
Binoy,
follow
wait.
up on this.
Binoy, please wait. There are questions in the
Yeah, I will.
private chat which have been there from quite some time. So I'll just ask them one by one. How to
Yeah.
respect
Can you share
someone?
some? Yeah. Can I go ahead then? Can you share
Do
some
you?
practical
Yeah.
ways in which we can make a positive difference? Volunteer, educate, support monetarily. Yes, those are practical ways. You can volunteer, you can educate girls, you can give to NGOs and stuff which are, doing work like that. You can volunteer with projects which are helping women and boys or whatever. Okay. You can support such NGOs and all yourself. You can also study yourself. You can do social work. You can do psychology. You can do psychiatry. You can do any system. You can even be a lawyer. There are lots of areas. Every area you can find ways in which you can help. You can be a teacher and teach this as well, can't you? So every area, wherever we are, if we are parents, we teach our children, right? So that is itself a huge contribution. If every parent can teach their young boys to make this difference, that's a huge contribution. So this is all ways in which we can contribute to developing this fair system of gender in the world, okay, and shunning violence in the world. So all this can be taught wherever we are, done wherever we are.
Dr.
Okay, I
Jamila,
will
there are some
understand.
questions on the
Yes.
private chat. There are some questions that have come anonymously.
Okay, can you read one of them out, Abhijit?
Yeah, how to respect someone in our thoughts, especially when we see or interact with how to not fall into filthy thoughts. How to respect someone in our thoughts, especially when we see or interact with, how to not fall into filthy thoughts. It's not clear, is it?
Okay, it's not completely clear, but I would think that here, see the whole, I talked about this, that our instinctual drives sometimes are, there's nothing wrong with having a healthy sexual drive, right? So occasionally having filthy thoughts, I suppose, refers to sexual thoughts. There's nothing wrong with a sexual instinct or a sexual drive. However, we need to control it. We cannot just let our sexual instincts loose. And that's why I said that our instinctual drives are controlled by our prefrontal cortex, this part of our brain. This is what controls it. Okay. So we should make every attempt to control our thoughts by, thinking, praying, committing this to the Lord, and remembering that, look, we cannot allow ourselves to just think anything about anybody. God expects us to control our thoughts. So you have to ask God, pray, and do this. And it's a very important question. Thank you for asking it. Okay. Any more in the private chat?
Yeah, there are a few more. What is the role of law? How it is exploited, or mostly not helping the victims, or stops the perpetrator? What are your thoughts? Like, law is not
Yes.
actually, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yes. See, the thing is that we actually have very good laws in India. It's not that we don't have good laws. We have good laws. The problem is the implementation. The problem is that the police can be very, what's the word? Very insensitive in the way they deal with rape cases. So this is a sort of standard joke and trope that if you want to be humiliated further, you go to the police and they will humiliate you further by asking all sorts of questions and all that. Unfortunately, this is the situation that we have right now. But we can see, as a country, we need to push for police reforms. We should not forget that there is a whole integrated system which we need to clean up. So as people who are interested in India, we should be writing and talking about police reforms. Some of us who are interested may choose to go into the police so that we can be the salt and light in the police. Okay, I know a few people who have done this, and I'm sure they're doing a great job. So if we have the capacity, if we have the ability, please go into the police so we can bring the change in there directly ourselves, or else by fighting for police reforms and things like that. Okay, I'll read a question from here. How are we? I will never understand why it is more shameful to be raped than to be a rapist. Yes, you're completely right. It's actually the rapist who should be more ashamed. But unfortunately, society is such that it teaches us that a raped person is degraded, is impure, is, all that sort of thing. But you're completely right. And we need to talk about this more. Thank you for that. Do we have any good restitution rehabilitation organizations in India? Yes, I think we do. So the legal systems have, rehabilitative systems. Not good enough, probably, but we need to work on that. How are we supposed to actively protest such heinous crimes? I have not heard any church or organization actively involved in protests. We're only discussing this among ourselves. Among ourselves, which is absolutely fine, but can we do something proactively? Well, we can write, Pastor. I think we can write. We can teach our young people, which is very important. Okay. I think teaching is very important. And if we have outreach to different places in our own cities, maybe to the slums or some other places, if we can have in our outreach work, in our evangelistic work, even in whatever we do, if we can incorporate this, so that the training which is given to people in these outreach areas includes this whole thing on violence and gender equality, then I think that's a great service we're doing. And protests by itself don't change anything. Protests bring awareness, yes, but they're not the only way to bring awareness. We can write, we can speak, we can write songs, we can do anything. Okay, we can paint, we can write a book, we can do so many things. Okay, we can have a session which is not necessarily for Christians. You're right, we're talking among ourselves, but you could probably have a session somewhere in your church and invite others to come. You could invite a few non-Christians to come as well and speak about it so that they will feel part of it. So we can try different things. Any more in your side?
What is the role of Sanjivin? Please use the Zoom reaction to raise your hand and wait for your turn, please. What is the role of internet pornography in men's brains affecting their view on women? What is the future of our young boys who are constantly scrolling Instagrams and Facebooks, which are desensitizing them? How can church handle this situation?
Yes, there are several questions on pornography, and I'm glad that came out. I try to talk about it, that when we watch too much of this violence or rape or stuff like that on TV, or if we see it in real life, that can definitely desensitize us to this. So we normalize sexual violence, we normalize multiple partners, we normalize promiscuity and all that. So yes, we have a great big job ahead of us to correct this. Okay, so in churches we need to be talking to our young boys and girls. Both can watch pornography, but obviously for boys it is a little bit more of a problem, because it often there is a demeaning of women which is happening there. So we need to counteract that. And the only way to counteract that is to talk, to teach, to preach, okay, about these things, and to form a place where the boys can freely tell us when they are struggling with these issues. Because pornography is not something they can easily talk about. We should deal with it without being judgmental. So to allow them to talk, to help them to find freedom. There are lots of people who are involved with this, of course. So yeah,
Yeah,
okay, we can
Jesus.
continue to do that.
Yeah, Jesus said, "Forgive those who persecute you." But when we think about the girl, people are seeking justice, which means hanging the accused. Is that justifiable?
No, we've
Be-
already discussed this. We can go ahead. We've
you
already
already
talked about
touched it.
this.
Okay, yeah, I think
As a
then
question, how can, as a
is that
question,
is the one
and we,
answer on the chat? So rightly said, hurt people, hurt countries. Okay. There is one more. Madam, gender equality can be taught as part of academics by moral science subject only, and there is no teaching on the practical or application side. Church is not equipped to deal with such subjects. How individual believers can handle such subjects using secular education along with biblical worldview?
okay, a good question. That's true that it's taught in colleges and it's taught in, in academics in that sense. But there are plenty of resources in the church also. Okay, so for instance, we are having a Tracy session on gender equality in a few months. Okay, so Abhijit will definitely put that out so that people can join. And once you have trained and made yourself aware, you can take Bible studies and all on your own, which in which you can talk about this. And there are people who are qualified to talk about both the secular as well as the biblical aspects. So do not give up hope. Keep finding people who can do it. All right, there's a question here. As a Christian, how can one influence the non-Christian people around us to break the existing societal norms? For example, patriarchy, insisting on boy child, etc. People defend it in the name of tradition, religion, and whatnot. And he shares about how he counseled somebody. uh, right, as a male, I feel I was in an awkward situation. Please shed your light on how to reach out to the people around us. Okay, well, one thing is by role modeling. Okay, so we need to set the example. The church should be in the forefront of teaching how men and women are equal, and boy children and girl children are the same. So we need to talk about this, and we need to perhaps have sessions on it. We need to write books on it. We need to just publicize it. No, we, each of us, every church should be in outreach to the people around us. Ideally, that is the way we should be functioning. No, or if we have a youth group meeting, you can do a skit on it. You can try different ways. Just allow the Lord to teach you to be creative in how you can do it. In colleges, for instance, we do skits. No, we do art programs on it. We do sort of competitions on who can do the best artwork on this or whatever. So find different ways of communicating the message that, look, we do not need to focus on only having boys, girls are equal, and that sort of thing. All right. A
I
reality we
think
may
that
be ignoring, and probably not the scope of this chat, but may need a mention at the least, is that this happens within the church as well. Rape, marital rape, pornography, abuse, harassment, and usually male church leaders who are the main perpetrators. Okay, that's unfortunate, but yes, it's true that we are part of this and we need to face up to it. Often we would like to think that we are above this and the church is not suspect in this area, but that's not true. We are equally guilty, which is why I'd said also that we need to introspect before we get into it, because sometimes we ourselves are contributing to this gender discrimination and attitudes which perpetrate rape and violence. Okay,
right.
any more
Yeah,
there?
yeah, I think there is one, but I think you already answered about what will happen to the victim on Judgment Day. Will God grant justice? We can leave it to God for that, right? Yeah, I think now all the questions are on the general chat, so you could take that directly, read it, and take it. Yeah, hello, Dr. Jamila, can you hear me?
Be afraid, okay? We should not definitely get scared and not allow our girls to go out or anything like that. Please remember that this whole rape thing has been around for years. It's always been like this. It's not as if this is a new thing. I told you that in the when was it? Probably in the 80s, it was the Geeta and Sanjay Chopra thing, which was big news and created a big furor. In 20 years later, it was the Nirbhaya case. Now again, 10 years later, it is this case. So every now and then one comes and shakes us up. But the fact is that rape and violence has been around for a long time, and we have all learned to struggle and negotiate with it. Please do not restrict your girls. Teach our girls to be bold and to trust God, to take, obviously they will need to take their own safety regulations. We should not limit them. We should just discuss with them what is the safest way to do it and encourage them to do as much as they can in within their own safety regulations, whatever they set for themselves. It's good that we allow them to set the limits. We should not be setting the limits for them. That is what I think. I, as a mother of two girls, we have two girls, we always allowed our children, once they were older, to go and do whatever they wanted. We would just tell them that occasionally give us a call and let us know when you're coming home or whatever. But we encouraged them, we taught them safety things, and we then allowed them to go and do whatever they wanted. And trust them. Do not go on checking. Do not be frantic and worried. Ultimately, God is in charge of our children, and God has to take care of them, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, there's one here. Pornography again. How can Christians push governments to ban it? How can Christians push governments to ban pornography? Well, very difficult task, I think, because though there are lots of sites which have been banned, and though actually the possession of child pornography, for instance, is a crime, otherwise having pornography is not a crime in itself. I suppose we could try talking to our local MPs and asking them to do it, particularly because of this particular problem in Calcutta. The MPs may be open to considering. So maybe this is the time to push for it. You're right. You should try. Okay.
For those men who are struggling with pornography, we have connections with some support groups. So you could join our NMBF Coffee Chats connection, or you could DM us and we will get you connected also. Thank you. Any more questions? I think those who are asking, Binoy wanted to ask a question. And one more person, please go ahead and unmute now. Please use the Zoom reaction. Binoy, go ahead.
Yeah, so my question is, there was a question on defending. There was someone who said, so the question of somebody is trying to rape and you're trying to defend and the person gets killed or something like that, right? So I think my take is you can defend even if the rapist gets killed. I think that's a godly thing to do. When somebody is being raped, you can't stand. That's the most unmanly and ungodly thing that can be done. That's what I feel.
Right.
I don't know what's your thoughts.
Yeah, sure, Bina. If you're protecting the woman and in the course of the fight, if the rapist happens to die, that's not a problem. I mean, that's not something which we say should not happen. What we are saying is afterwards, the call to hang the rapist.
Right.
Is what I said. There seems to be a very violent, sort of almost a hysterical sort of response to this, that, hang him, kill him. That kind of angry, over the top reaction is not what probably a Christian should be doing, right? It's not the reaction we want to encourage. If you're doing it while you're defending, if a guy is doing something to a girl and you step in and try to defend her, and in the process, if there's a fight and the guy dies, certainly that's not anyone's fault. Okay?
Correct. Yeah, and follow up on that. So then women and men are not equal in that sense, that there are different roles we play.
In strength. They're not, obviously,
Yeah,
they're
I
not
mean,
physically equal in strength.
yeah, then God has designed us differently for different roles. So the idea of equality being across, being spread across all sections of society or areas, that doesn't seem to be very biblical for me. I don't know. Because can women fight wars? Can they do construction work? Can they do hard labor? So in that sense, we are different. I mean,
All right.
so
See, the point is, I get your question, and my point is this: that look, with the advent of motorized labor, motorized tools, many women do a lot of construction work. I like to handle the drill at home. I can use a drill because now it's an electric drill. I don't need to use force to do it. So there are, because of the advance of science and technology, the limitations on women because of their physical strength being less are becoming less and less. So we don't have to make this into a religion that there are different roles. Okay. For instance, war. Yes, of course, most of the time it will be men who fight, right? But there are certain roles which women are very easily able to do in a war. For instance, you can fly a plane. You don't need physical strength for that. A woman can fly a plane, right? So, I mean, the point actually is that why are we trying to draw these lines? That this is what you should do and this is what you shouldn't do. For instance, all women and men are not the same strength. I would think that Serena Williams is stronger than most men who are listening to me right now, isn't it? Mary Kom would be able to knock out many men because she's a boxer. So why do we want to make these artificial limitations? Whatever you can do, you do. Whatever you can't do,
Right.
you don't do.
Right.
Isn't it?
Yeah, Elizabeth John, please go ahead. Elizabeth John?
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Ma'am,
Yes.
you mentioned that, people have been baying for the blood of the rapists, and
Yeah.
that is not a very Christian response. So my
Okay.
question is, uh, what punishment should be given to the rapist, which is strong enough to create fear in future rapists, so that this thing doesn't increase as it has been. So what should be the biggest thing without wanting a capital punishment or a hanging or something or an execution? What should be the strongest punishment which a Christian can desire for a rapist?
Okay, well, actually, right now the sentence for rape has been increased to life imprisonment, and the sentence for murder is already life imprisonment is the limit that people allow. So I think that is a pretty strong punishment, isn't it? Now, what more can we ask apart from life imprisonment? The only thing that you can ask apart from life imprisonment is the capital punishment, no? That you should kill them. But the problem is that capital punishment has been shown to have a very mixed response. Because if that is what we are trying to use as a deterrent, it actually works the other way. If you threaten a rapist with the death sentence, what they would probably do, which they do even now, is that they kill the girl so that she cannot identify them.
Right.
Okay, so it has a mixed thing. So it doesn't make any sense to do that. Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so
Dr.
rather than
Jamila,
thinking of deterrence by fear, which is okay, that it has part of that is part of it. Okay, of course we should be afraid of the justice system, but a still better way is to work on the positive part, no? To work on teaching the guys that, look, you don't need to do this, that you are fine, you don't have to compete. See, often it is frustrated men who don't have power in this patriarchal system, no? It is they who rape. As I was telling some of my friends on another group, is that happy and contented men don't go and rape, no?
yeah. So
It
I
is
think
that
the
is not the
Christian,
kind of profile that you see of rapists. Rapists are not happy and contented men. Rapists are people who have problems usually. They are dissatisfied with their lot. They are caught in this whole system of wanting power and control and whatever. It's usually that picture that we get. So we need to break that system. That, look, we do not need to get into this race of getting money and power and wealth and status and caste, and these things are the bad thing. And as Christians, we break that. We say that God loves everybody.
Right.
That God gives freedom to everybody. He loves the Dalit, he loves the Brahmin, he loves the man, he loves the woman, he loves the young, he loves the old, he loves the rich, he loves the poor. And all these things are temporary, and all these things are, in a sense, really not so important. We are all
Right.
one in Christ Jesus. That's what we are told as Christians, no?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So God
So
hates.
that's our message. That's what we need to focus on more and more.
Yeah. God hates
A
the
question from
sin
Jamila
but
here.
loves the sin. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. Anyone?
There's a
Yeah.
question here.
Yeah. On the
Not the
chat. Yeah.
same age group of girls or women are suffering. The age groups are different. How can we handle and pamper them to come out of these things? How can we help both the victim and the family? How should church? There are lots of questions here. How should church and family fellowship be arranged to the particular victim? Okay. I don't know if you're talking about suffering as in a sense of having gone through this kind of trauma. If they have, I think, of course, they need help. Okay. And sometimes they will need more than casual help. Many people who have gone through rape actually go through a lot of depression. They go through a lot of problems. They might need professional help as well. Okay. So consider what you need to do from the psychological perspective. That's what I'd say. If they are not coming out of this, okay, if they are not able to see that, look, I don't have to be ashamed, I have done nothing wrong, this is that guy is the one who made the mistake, and he is the one who needs help, who needs pity for being so well, I use the word pathetic. Probably just use that word again. It's a very sad and pathetic thing to do, to force yourself on someone, no? When you could have been a happy, mature person who had a happy and mature sexual relationship with a woman who loves you and who you love. That is the ideal, no? If you don't have that ideal and therefore you're doing all this, so you're the one who really needs to be pitied. If you start seeing this, that this is the person, this is the way to look at it. If she's not able to see that, then please ask her to get some proper help. Okay. Any other questions, Abhijit?
Oh, so no, sorry, no question at my end. Is there anybody? I think one or two people wanted to ask questions through audio. Now go ahead, please, in the closing moments. Yeah. Okay, I think then that's it for today.
Sorry if I missed any questions. There were lots in the chat, people. That's
No,
why.
I think you managed to handle everything. Thank you, ma'am. As a Christian,
Can
can
we
we
take
take
part
part
in
in
protest?
protest?
Someone has asked. As a Christian, can we take part in protest knowing that it doesn't do good in the ground level? No, no. See, I didn't say that. You can please take part in protests if you want to. There's no problem with that. All that I said was we must not think that that is the only thing that is going to bring change. It brings awareness, which is great. So if you feel that you want to go and join the protest, please do. Okay, I have joined in protests myself, several of them. So there's nothing wrong with that. Please do it if you know feel inclined, and if you want to join the protest, please join. But more than that, talk about these things. That look, this is the actual underlying reason. What do we do about this reason? How do we help men and women to come out of this? Okay.
Right.
But protests help in
Oh,
bringing about policy changes,
Awareness. Yes, they bring
more than
awareness.
awareness, policy changes, the
Yes,
demanding
hopefully,
safe,
yes.
safe roads, safe transport. So join
Yes,
protest, because that is what
hopefully.
is create the platform.
Sure, no problem. If you can get policy changes and all, that's great.
right.
We can always be hopeful.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else remaining? All right then. Thank you everyone for joining, and special thanks to Dr. Jamila for such a wonderful presentation and tackling every question that was presented. Okay, thank you, friends. Let's hope that whatever we've learned tonight, we can take it to our communities and our churches and have introspection and transformation starting from within and then reaching forward to the society.